Good evening, everyone. Notice is hereby given, the City Council of the City of Alpine, Texas will hold a regular meeting at 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, April 3rd, 2018, in the City Council chambers at 803 West Holland in the City of Alpine, Texas, for the purpose of considering the attached agenda. The notice is posted pursuant to the Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.043, Texas Government Code. Public notice: the use of cell phones and sound activated pages are prohibited in the City Council chamber during the meeting of the City Council. Members of the audience will be provided an opportunity to address the council during public hearings and during action items. Please speak into the microphone located at the podium and state your name and address. If you have a petition or other information pertaining to your subject, please present it to the City Secretary. State law generally prohibits the council from discussing or taking any action on any issue not included on the agenda. But if appropriate, the council might schedule the topic for future discussion or refer the matter to the staff. No personal attacks on council members or city staff will be allowed. The mayor may call a point of order to stop the personal attacks, and the individual continues to personally attack an elected official or staff members in the meeting. They may be barred from speaking at the meeting. We shall have the invocation led by our former council member, Ms. Nancy Antrim.
I'm Nancy Antrim, Eucharistic minister and worship leader at St. James Episcopal Church. Let us pray. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send down upon those who hold office here in Alpine the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. Bless our city manager, our mayor, and our council members, and give to them patience in dealing with each other and our community. Bless our finance director, and guide her in her duties to safeguard our city's finances. Bless our office staff, that they may fulfill their duties to the best of their abilities. Bless all those who work for Alpine, helping to make it a safe and pleasant place to live. And bless our citizens with peace and security. Amen.
You have the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you. City Secretary, do we have a form?
Mayor, we do have a form of Councilor Fitzgerald absent, and the notice was posted at 5 p.m. on March 28, 2018.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we've got some proclamations, some recognitions actually today. I'll step to the podium and recognize folks. The first one is going to be Patsy McWilliams. Patsy here?
She wasn't able to.
Okay, so we'll give that to her. The next one is the Water Department, Ramona Buchanan. She's not here either. Okay, Gas Department, Andrew Chavez. Okay. This certificate is presented to Andrew Chavez, Gas Department, for satisfactorily completing and remarkable achievement in operator qualification courses. Signed on this third day of April 2018, Andres Ramos, Mayor of City of Alpine. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. have Mike Macias here. No, Mike. How about the guest department? We have Antonio Ibarra. And we are celebrating his year of service with the guest department. Celebrating years of service. This certificate is presented to Antonio Ibarra, guest department. Thank you for demonstrating 10 years of continued commitment and dedication required to achieve excellence and success for the city of Alpine. From March 3rd, 2008 to March 3rd, 2018, signed on this third day of April 2018, Andres Ramos, Mayor. Congratulations. And I've got a proclamation. I'll just go ahead and stand here. And it reads, whereas thousands of times each year, the underground infrastructure in Texas is damaged by those who do not have underground lines located prior to digging, resulting in service interruption, environmental damage, and threat to public safety. And whereas in 2005, the Federal Communications Commission designated 811 to provide excavators and homeowners a simple number to contact utility operators to request the location of underground lines at the intended site of dig. And whereas the Damage Prevention Council of Texas, a stakeholder-driven organization dedicated to the prevention of damage to underground facilities in all 254 counties, promote the National 811 notification system in an effort to reduce the damage. And whereas a damage prevention is shared responsibly by using safe digging practice, persons living and working in the city of Alpine and Brewster County can save time and money and help us keep our infrastructure safe and connected. Now, therefore, I, Andres Ramos, Mayor, City of Alpine, Texas, do hereby proclaim on behalf of the City of Alpine and Damage Prevention Council of Texas the month of April 2018, April Alpine Digging, Safe Digging Month, and encourage excavators and homeowners throughout the City of Alpine, Brewster County to always call 811 before digging. Safe digging is no accident. In witness that whereof, I do hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Alpine to affix on this third day of April 2018. Andres Ramos, Mayor. Okay, city reports. And I have one that deals with AT&T outages and also with Big Ben Telephone Company. I attended a meeting with Big Ben Telephone Company last month and kind of was brought up to speed as to what's going on with AT&T and the outages, which affect our 911 service. They're in the process of trying to negotiate some type of interconnection between the two telecommunication companies. So that's still in the works. It's going to take a while before that's completed. So I'm just bringing an update on that. Also, last week I was in, a week before last, I was in El Paso with the emergency management coordinator. And I ran into two representatives from AT&T, one from the corporation out of Dallas and the other one out of Austin. And we talked at length about the outages and the length of time to take to repair them. So they committed to give them a call so they could get personally involved in it. Also to set up a meeting where the community leaders that are affected by these outages can speak to them and see what can get to resolve. So there's going to be an ongoing, hopefully it won't take too long to get a resolve, but I will keep everyone posted as to what's going on with this. And we'll go on to,
Mr. Mayor,
yes. Okay, that's it.
She's coming up again. She's coming up again. Mayor, she's coming up again.
Okay.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Oh, wait,
Not yet. Not yet. But anyway, it was a good positive meeting, and one I did know from back when I was working with AT&T in San Antonio, so we have a good connection there. The other young man is the one from the port out of AT&T and works almost directly with the CEO of AT&T, so we got two good connections now. And I know that Councilmember Stevens also has a connection there also.
I'm laying and waiting. Let me know.
But you're gonna be led, I think, sir. Okay. Alrighty, let's move it right along. Let's go with the city manager report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council, members of the great city of Alpine. Thanks for being here. Full house today. It is that time of year that we start preparing for our budget for the next fiscal year. So in your package, you should have received the proposed budget calendar that we'll be working off of this year. There's a couple of dates that I need to add in here. On May 15th, the Texas Hotel Association will be doing a workshop for anyone interested in receiving hotel motel funds. And our request period is going to be from June 1st to June 30th. We plan to put out a press release inviting those that are interested to attend the workshop, and then where to access the request form and what's going to be required for this year from the website. We won't be doing individual emails to people or inviting anyone one-on-one. It'll be up to them to follow through. And we will send invites to the workshop, and that'll probably be about the end of that. I don't like to put us in a situation where some people get invitations and some people don't, and why them and why me. And so I think this is kind of the easiest way to keep it as clean as possible.
Well, on the city website, the hot button application has always been on the website today. It's there.
So that's the schedule there. The departments were given the department narrative form for them to fill out that basically identifies their mission statement, a narrative of their department, major accomplishments this fiscal year, goals for next fiscal year, staffing needs, and performance measures, and that will be included in our final budget presentation in August.
So we've got, we've got council workshops in July. And so I presume that's going to be your form to bring forward what you integrate the city manager perspective.
Yes.
Any more questions?
So next from the staff, under monthly reports, public utilities with Jay. Sorry, Jay White.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
You may see.
For our February report for water for the month, 36,592,800 gallons. The daily flow for the wastewater for February, 11,894,000, which basically tells you what all the water went. Reuse, we pumped 134,000 back to the golf course. We had 9 leaks, 10 sewer backups, done 4 water taps and 4 sewer pumps. That's it.
So the only recommendation I'd make is you might, that's probably not daily water flow, that's probably monthly.
Yes.
Flow. Yeah, okay. Yeah, about 1.3 million gallons a day.
And like I say, about 60% is going in the ground.
Yep.
Back on the ground.
Back on the ground.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Thanks.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Next we've got code enforcement with Patsy McWilliams.
Now it's my turn.
Now it's your turn.
Hello, how are y'all tonight?
Good.
Okay, so I'm also doing a report on the building as well, correct? No? Okay. So then we'll just go straight into the code violations. We had 2 illegal dumping citations issued since January, and 10 reports of the misuse of the dumpster, whether it was putting something in the dumpster that didn't belong there or putting things next to a dumpster. Those were remedied without a citation having to be issued. Notices sent, we sent out 4 high weed notifications, 4 storage of discarded items, 5 junk vehicles, 1 zoning ordinance violation for having a boat parked in the right of way. You can park one in your yard, but you can't park one on the street. And another obstruction of a road. We had a carport in a city street. Yes.
How long can somebody park an RV on their property?
On the property or on the right of way?
On the property.
You can park your vehicle or your RV on your property.
Okay, so if it's someone's parking an RV and they're renting it out, is that okay to do on their property?
No, we have got several zoning violations with having an RV in an R1 place, and you have a residence being rented and an RV on the same property being rented. That's not okay in an R1 area. Then our zoning RVs aren't supposed to be there unless it's in a mobile home district, and then there's still some questions about that.
Okay, thanks. The report.
That's it.
And I've got a certificate for you. You better miss it.
Thank you for giving that opinion.
All my needs are. I had already read it out. But anyway, it's for your service with code enforcement department. You've been doing a great job.
Thank
And
you
we
so much.
appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mayor, before we move on to the next one, I'd also like to take this opportunity to introduce our new building official. Mr. Victor Meraz is with us this evening. He will actually start officially Thursday. Thursday he starts officially, but he's joining us today and already doing his orientation.
Good deal. No, that's
Can you give me more about your background, Victor?
yes.
Where you're from, what you do?
My name is Victor Meraz. I'm from El Paso, Texas. I was a building inspector over there in El Paso for 10 years, and also a building official for the city of Village Benton.
Okay.
And I like what I do, my work, and this opportunity came up, and I'm here. I like a lot the city of Alpine. So I'm glad to be here.
How many certifications do you have?
I have 8, 9. It's and commercial buildings, commercial plumbing, residential electrical, energy, building, residential. Where is lost? That's 9 of them. Mechanical, residential, and mechanical, and commercial. That would be yes. Okay. Also, I'm trying to get some more.
Good.
Welcome to Alpine. Now, that just added fuel to the fire you would see. Because there's kind of a little ongoing feud with the mayor of Benton and myself. And it all stems from our city manager being hired by Alpine. We had a little discussion at a conference here a 3 months ago. And now, the week before last, when I was in El Paso with that first responder meeting, there was a gentleman sitting next to the mayor of Benton. And I says, "Is that my new employee?" And he just kind of with the dirtiest look. I don't know what was going through his mind right now. But welcome aboard, and then this adds a little bit more fuel. So get your arms ready. We have to defend Alpine. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Huh?
You're winning.
Got to. Got to.
Next we have Mr. Bob Savory from the Building and Standards Commission.
Morning.
Well, how's it going?
All right. Building and standards have not been real active since the last time I talked to you. With the loss of Robert, we couldn't have meetings because he's the one that presents, the problems, and we have to vote on, decide what we're going to do. But I was in the office today trying to catch up with him, found out he didn't start until Thursday, but I will be in your office on Thursday. Reason being is I want to have another meeting on the 24th of this month. And we have to have notice and stuff in advance, sent out and stuff like that. So that's where we're at right now. November and December, nothing was really planned because of the holidays, because we do it on the 4th Tuesday. And January, February, March, of course, we didn't have a building official per se. So, but what was on the agenda in October, 2 of the 3 problems that were brought to us were fixed, and the other one, the 24th, we're going to get. And that's really my report. I wish there was more to say, but that's where we're at really for about the last 6 months.
I think not going forward with the victory in place, I think we can start having those quarter reports and start. So.
And also, Councilman, we need another alternate. We have one, but we still need another. All the positions are filled. We've approved all my positions for the commission. I have Jesse Lauer for first alternate and then a second. So if somebody's got somebody, you can give me a call. I should be in the whatever you call it, directory.
Okay, I think the city council could be up to that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Any more reports?
That is all there.
Okay, Board of Public Hearings, and there's none. Now we'll go to the consent agenda, minutes, financial reports, department building reports, board appointments, etc. Notice to the public, the following items are of routine administrative nature. The council has been furnished with the background and support material on each item, or it has been discussed at a previous meeting. All items will be acted upon by one vote without being discussed separately unless requested by a council member. In which event, the item or items will be immediately withdrawn for individual consideration in its normal sequence. After the items not requiring separate discussions have been acted upon, the remaining items will be adopted by one vote. City manager.
Here you have approval of minutes from the city council meeting on March 20th, 2018.
Yes, sir.
Will we approve the consent agenda?
Okay, is there a second? Motion's been made and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on it. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Now we'll move to information or discussion items, the quarterly report. City manager, will you go ahead?
Sure. Is Shayna Sullivan here? So she's not here. Next, we've got review and discuss the road repair and maintenance priority list for the spring summer paving season. Mr. Stevens.
So I actually bring that up. I know it's Jessica. Did we ever sort out what Vector kind of a list? My push was I get lots of questions. I'm sure one else is, where are we in terms of the roads game plan? So I'd asked we kind of pull this together. I haven't seen it. My recommendation, let's move that to the next meeting. So you have a real understanding where we're at on that.
Well, and we also just lost 2 more employees from that department. So we hired 1, lost 2. So I'm not. I know we kind of came up with an alternate plan if we weren't able to fill the whole crew out.
Yeah.
But I know he's still working on that priority list.
Okay. So I think we can do the next time. Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to item C.
Review and discuss the strategy for utilization of the $750,000 reserve set aside for last fiscal year for the developing a plan for improvements to the wastewater and water system.
So, and if you go to the last 2 pages of your handout, you're going to find 2 slides. I know we're going to take action under that, under the first action item, but the little discussion of where we're up to speed on and where that stands. There's a lot of great discussion that came up. I know Ramon brought some items up. I brought some items up that Lucy had about where are we on managing the $750,000 wastewater and water system reserve that we set aside last fiscal year. And And so the chart is aimed at really kind of talking about what's the background was created, with a focus on trying to understand what's the status of our wastewater and water system. Next is the focus on what are the key actions we need to go off and work. Third, the expectations that the funds will be extended to look at a long-term plan. And fourth, we allocate money only based upon city council. The discussion we're going to have, or the item we're going to have to discuss under the action item is the priorities for the allocation, and there are three. First, allocate funds to reduce the current debt. And I know we're going to hear more from Megan and Jessica about that. And we've had a preliminary discussion about that in our last meeting. Second is to conduct a needs assessment and fix key items and time-sensitive items, including some of how do we get SCADA taken care of, and what are some of the things we need to work right now, and there's a proposed budget for that. It's going to leave about $336,000 out of the $750,000, and that will allow us to go off and conduct a needs assessment to look at the long term. So my view is it's the right thing to do. I think it's consistent with the strategy we all talked about last year. We allocated the dollars, but thought it worthwhile just get a reminder. My sense of the action items are fairly straightforward. The second page in the package there that you have is the actual detailed dollars about what will be allocated for specific projects. Anyway, that was it there. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Good. Ramon, you okay with it? Great.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Thanks. That's all I had on that one.
Thank you very much, sir.
Next, we have review and discuss the fiscal year 2016-2017 audit from Gibson, Ruddock, and Patterson LLC for the City of Alpine auditors. And they're here to present.
Good evening. Good to see you all again. What I'd like to do is to go over these graphs. What we've done is we've pulled out some of the main categories, put them in a graph form so we can kind of compare the last 5 years' activity. So those are in your booklet that we handed out. The first one is a comparison of the governmental revenue. And this is actually coming from page 24 out of this big book, which you don't need to go to, but just let you know that all of this information is coming out of the audit. The blue section there on the bottom, what we're looking at is governmental revenue. So this is pretty much all of the activity except for the enterprise fund. So it doesn't include the water and gas or airport activity. So the blue is our property taxes. You can see we had a little bit of an increase there. Most of that relates to increases in the appraised values, but we also did have a small increase in the M&O tax rate. The yellow or gold section is the other taxes. You can see we have an increase there, and that relates to about 114,000 increase in sales tax and about 133,000 increase in the hotel taxes. The gray is the intergovernmental, and that's primarily like grant revenue. That's going to fluctuate just based on what grants we have going, but it's fairly close to last year. The green is the admin and franchise, so that's basically what we're charging the enterprise funds, and so it stayed pretty much the same there. Then the red is the other revenue that's in these categories, and we see a little bit of an increase or decrease there, and that's because the prior year had some road repair revenue that went down this year. The Next graph is a comparison of the general fund expenditures. So this is just the activity in the general fund. The blue section is the general, and that's basically the same. You okay? Okay. The gold section there is the public works, and you see a significant increase there, and that relates basically to about $500,000 increase in street improvement expenditures. The red is health and welfare, very little fluctuation in that category. Gray is culture and recreation, and we have a little bit of an increase there. Primarily about a $55,000 increase in capital expenditures for equipment, and then about a $32,000 increase in salaries that relates to one new hire. Okay. The green section on the top is the public safety, and you see a little bit of an increase there, which relates primarily to about a $50,000 increase in police salaries and one vehicle at $25,000. So a significant increase overall in general fund expenditures, but you can see the main contributor was the street improvement. Now, this next graph, we are just so pleased to see this year. Ever since we've been involved with the city, this blue section, this is the equity of the general fund. So if we were a corporation, we would call it retained earnings, okay? But for governmental, we call it fund balance. And we have two basic categories. There's the unassigned, which is the blue, and the red is the restricted and assigned categories. We've had the blue section, which is the unassigned, has been below the zero line for the last 4 years. This year, we are so pleased with y'all. We've got 400,000 in the plus in that category, in addition to the assigned and restricted. So we're very, very pleased to see that happen. And I think, you know, the city's been working the last few years to get things straightened out, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that labor. And what we want to see is some more fine tuning, which we'll touch on here in a minute. But I think we're going in the right direction. Very pleased to see that. The next graph is comparison of the water and sewer fund. The blue column represents the revenue. So you see a little bit of an increase there, and that's because we had about a 3% increase in our rates. The gold bar is the operating expense, and that went up a little bit as well. We had salary increase overall of about 80,000, and our waste collection fees went up by about 80,000. The red line that you see kind of zigzagging along the bottom, that is the net change for the year. And if we were a corporation, we would call it our net income. So you can see how that went up a little bit this year as well. So the operation is looking good there in the water fund. Now the last graph is the same thing, but for the gas fund. So we can see, if you look at those blue columns, the last 4 years, revenue has been going down. Two reasons for it is we've had milder winters, so we aren't selling as much gas, and also the price of gas has gone down as well. So, and that's what we see this year, a little bit of a decrease in revenue. The expense side, the gold column, also went down a little bit, but not to the same degree that the revenue did. We just had a few small items that impacted the expense side. We had a small increase in the road improvement expenses of about 46,000, but the admin and franchise expense went down about 22, and then our gas purchase expense went down about 60. So that's where we're getting a net decrease in those expenses. The red line, you can see it's kind of zigzagged all over the place, but it was just about a break even this year in the overall operation. The financial statement itself, this is kind of the operation in a nutshell, what we just went over. The financial statement has just a tremendous amount of information in it, very detailed. Oh, one thing, now that we're getting things in a pretty good order, I think it might benefit council, and we'll throw this out as an offer. What we've done for a number of primarily our school district clients have appreciated this, is we'll come in and we will give you about a 2-hour class on how to actually read through this financial statement, because honestly, a regular business financial statement is not the easiest thing to understand. But a government financial statement, I know CPAs that have trouble going through a government financial statement just because they have so much more information, and the ins and outs, it's just very confusing. So if you would like, I will offer for me or Marlene or both of us, whatever, to come out, and you need at least 2 hours to actually go through, but we'll show you where the numbers are coming from, where they're going to, and kind of what it means. So if you would like that, y'all get together and we'll come up with a date when we can go do that. So the other thing that we have to present to you is the management letter, which is the separate letter. Now, this is where we offer our suggestions for improvement. So changes to policies, formalizing policies, improving procedures, tightening controls. This year we have the current comments, and I think we have about 26. And last year, on page 12, we list out the prior year comments, and there were, I think, 19. But we give you the status of those, and a number of them are repeated, and they'll tell you in there if they are. I think they're written to where you don't have to be a CPA to understand what we're talking about. That's the problem with accountants. You know, we're nerds and we like to use special terms and whatnot. But we really do make an effort to not use our special, nerd language when we write this. And also, management has responded to each of these to tell you what they are doing to correct the issue or make the improvement. And our discussions with Jessica, I think she's on top of this and has a very good grasp of what's going on and what needs to be done. And honestly, most of it, you just need to have someone with a very strong iron fist to say, this is the way it's going to be. You know, I'm sorry that we haven't been doing it that way for the last 20 years, but that's the way it needs to be. And so if I can find any extra steel to put in that fist, I'll send it over to him. So that's our report in a nutshell. If you have any specific questions, I will let Marlene answer. Marlene puts in a huge effort in this audit. She works on most of our very large audits, but this was one. Once we got into it our first year, we could tell that it needed someone special to. Well, you know, when we first started, it was kind of like from the ground up. Things had really fallen apart, and so you needed someone that could work with your staff to help implement the improvements and the difference in how things should be accounted for, how they were, and so forth. And so Marlene has put in a lot of time, and she really does take great pride in what improvements have been made so far. And if you would like to know what some of those are, she can tell you. But anyway, do you have any questions?
Thank you for the report, but I'd like to comment. Yeah, you're right. I think we need to move forward with changes, for the sort of positive changes. And I know it's going to be some pushbacks at times, but if it's for the betterment of the city, we need to follow through on this. Right. You know, I know we were in the quagmire there for a while, but now it seems like things are turning around. Mm-hmm. And I think with your recommendations and with city manager and the city council working on it, I think we can really work on this and on your especially once we learn what everything that's in this book. I would recommend it. I know I need to attend this 2-hour class. I don't know how the rest of the city council feels about it, but it gives us a better grasp on what's going on in our finances. And I think that's crucial because I think we're all in it to make sure that this city is financially sound. And I think that's why we all, when I ran for office, is to make sure that our city is up and running in the positive manner that it should be. So thank you very much, sir.
I do have a question on this particular packet. Can you read and explain to me what 24 means?
Okay.
I don't know. Can I remember at the top? Oh, page 11.
Okay.
The Public Funds Investment Act is, this is a requirement that relates to governmental entities in the state of Texas. There are certain rules that we have to follow in handling our money and investing it. One of those rules is we have to adopt a policy each year. City Council approves that policy. And one of those rules is that each year City Council is supposed to adopt an approved broker list. And these are the only people that you can invest money with, or only companies. And so what we found is you did not have the list of brokers. You have the policy, you adopted the policy, but you don't have the approved list of brokers.
You just recently, over the last few years, started really investing in the different investment pools. And so that's why we're making sure that you are in compliance with the act. Prior to 5 years ago, all you had was a very small amount in that stock, that Verta stock, like $100. And that was the extent of your investment at that point. But now that you have more funds to invest, you need to make sure that you remain.
And it does say that council didn't approve, right? On line 3?
Yes, you need, what needs to be done annually is you approve the list of brokers that you're going to invest with.
So we need to obtain the list of those approved programs, correct?
And it's just.
So it's one of the items on that list that I gave you at the last meeting.
Right.
One of them in there is the public investment, to make sure that that policy is current. And I guess that policy also kind of makes it easier for us to invest the funds, because you've already approved the policy that tells us when and how and to whom we can invest it, instead of having to come back and say, okay, we need to pull this money out and put it over here now. Pull this money. So that policy will allow us to do that when we need to do it on a regular basis.
What about number 25 on the same page, please? Can you explain that one?
Yes, this is just a recommendation. Each year you're applying for grants, different federal or state grants. And sometimes they're very small grants. And what I was recommending is just that the city open up a fund for miscellaneous federal grants. That's not uncommon for governmental entities to have one fund. And by fund, we mean like a separate set of like an accounting, general, yes, account codes. So they have a separate fund for miscellaneous grants. When you have larger ones, you have a single fund just for that grant to maintain cleaner records. But if they're very small, like 3,000 or 2,000, you can put them all in one fund and maintain them that way. It just makes accounting easier instead of having them in the general fund.
They tend to get lost in the general fund.
Yes.
Put them in as like reason for, but.
Mayor, I think it would be interesting to keep a full list of the accomplishments, because I think you guys have come a long way in 4 years. I think it'd be good for the public to hear all those things that have happened.
And these are the major accomplishments that have really helped the city. One of the first things is you separated your debt service fund. So now all your IMS taxes are going to a separate fund, and the debt that is related to those taxes is being paid out of the fund, which is that's one in accordance with government accounting. And it's good to just maintain that separately, since those taxes are designated for your bonds. Another item was you implemented the franchise fee that you're charging enterprise funds. So that has been very good for the general fund also, because prior to our recommendation, there was no charges to the enterprise fund, but yet the general fund was picking up all those costs. And also the administration fee that is being charged to the enterprise funds, and then the indirect cost fee for the hotel motel fund. Because again, accounting does perform work that the expenses coming out of the general fund, but wasn't getting charged to the hotel motel. And those are allowable. You separated your self-insurance activity. For your self-insurance, it was commingled in with the general fund for a while, and now it is a separate fund again, so you're able to see what is being contributed, the claims that are being paid out, and it's in a separate fund, so that's good. During the last 5 years, GASB 68 was implemented, and that was a very large accounting pronouncement related to your pension. And that's a big undertaking, and they're also required to do reports to TMRS, so that's another accomplishment. We implemented that. It's going well. They started the cleanup of the capital assets. They're still working on it. That's a very long project, but again, it's moving right along with capital assets. We're cleaning up items that shouldn't be on the list, and they're taking inventory, trying to. So that's a good thing. Also, you opened up some new bank accounts to keep funds separate instead of having them flowing through one bank account and then trying to figure out what money belongs to which funds. So that was very important to keep the revenue separate for the different types of funds. Also, you have been implementing new procedures and disbursements and senior. I know they're working on formal written policies, which is very important, but the procedures have been tried to be implemented, and we've been working towards making the controls better. So, and I know that's, again, an ongoing project, and they're still working on it. There's still a lot to do, but the city has come a long way and really worked hard to get things where they are today, which you saw in the graphs that we're making significant strides. So, very good.
Questions?
I have one more. District number 21. Can you explain that one to me on page 10?
We do a testing of some of the individual bills of different customer accounts within the city. And there was a church that was charged for sewer at one rate and garbage at a different rate. And we weren't sure why. Again, they were set up that way previously. So this was before a lot of these people, it was already set up that way. So these are some areas that they are going to research and see why certain customers were set up a certain way and clean up if needed.
So when I think of audits at what I'll call the macro level, looking at the 30,000 foot level, there's 4 things that I think are important to talk about so that people really understand what happened out of the audit. First is, and according to the report, the audit demonstrated that the accounting that we do for the city accurately reflects the status of our finances. That's true, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Second thing is, you already talked about the improvements. There's a lot of improvements made. The third one is, were there any findings that were notable enough to be able to talk about? There are certainly the 26 comments. Those tend to be lesser issues. Hey, go work this, go work that. But were there any findings? I didn't say anything.
No, so the findings would be back in the back on page 95, actually, and there are no findings. Findings are of a more serious nature, of material weakness, so forth. What we're making recommendations here are to strengthen the controls. Not that you do have controls, they just need to be improved on.
And the reason being, Megan was a little worried about, last year she had no findings, so this year she survived again with no findings. So well done, Megan, and the team. And that's a terrific audit.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Any more questions? Thank you all very much for the audit.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the recommendations also. Keep us on track.
And if you'd like us to do that little class, just,
Absolutely. I think we're all in consensus that we need to do it, and I guess for the city manager to notify y'all.
give us like 3 dates or something that y'all could work it and we can try and make it all work out.
Okay, well, thank y'all very much.
Take care, y'all.
Okay.
Ready to go into the action?
Yeah.
So number 8 is discuss and take action to allocate the $750,000 reserve set aside last fiscal year for the purpose of making an assessment and developing a plan for improvement to the wastewater and water system. Mr. Stevens.
So, Mr. Mayor, I propose that council take action to allocate $419,311.19 out of the $756,140.51 currently set aside in the reserve for the following purposes. 1, to reduce the debt and burden that we currently have in the city in the water and wastewater treatment. And the other is to allocate funds to support a match for the TDA hydrant project, which we've already talked about in previous council in February, for a rate analysis, for the needs assessment, for an asset management plan, to complete the SCADA improvements that we talked about from an annual budget standpoint, and to replace the office structure at the treatment plant. And that will leave as sitting in the reserve $336,831.32, and that's listed on the. That's the motion.
Okay, is there a second on this? Okay, any discussion? And I have some discussion. I think it's a good idea if you want to go with it. We'll get that pretty much. That's how matters on a regular basis come through. Okay. So, motion been made, second, and discussion anymore? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Seymour. Okay,
Next is discuss and consider approving accepting the fiscal year 2017 year ending September 30th, 2017 audit from Gibson, Reddick, and Patterson LLC, City of Alpine auditors.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the fiscal year 2016-17 year ending September 30, 2017 audit from Gibson, Reddick, and Patterson LLC for the city of Alpine.
is there a second? Okay, motion made, second, any discussion?
The only thing I would like to add is if there's an opportunity of setting up that workshop that they talked about for our benefit, I think that would be a good idea.
We can look at it for maybe September. Right, before the end of the fiscal year, so we don't know what we're prepping for.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Okay, anything else? Okay. City Council comments and answers. We'll start on the left.
Uh-oh.
You're in the role, so I'm
That's
going to
okay.
continue with it.
So, one, I want to comment at the beginning of the meeting. I'm not sure whose idea it was to recognize our employees, but it's the first time I've seen it. I've been on council, and I think it's a great idea. So I hope we're going to see more of that. And I think it's great for us as council to see who our employees are, but also to recognize and honor them for the great work that they do. So it sounds like you did it. So thank you guys.
Part of it.
The second thing I want to comment on, Victor, welcome. You're sort of needed, and I know there's a lot of people put you to work. So, but thanks for everyone.
Thank you. I'll be here.
Thanks.
I'm glad you're here with us, and I'm really glad that we all came together today. Thank you.
Go on.
Overall, a great meeting, and just to reemphasize what Councilor Stevens said, to all the honorees and the people who have served for some time, and our new employees and staff, welcome. And we look forward to working with you, and thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Okay, it was great meeting with Victor. Welcome to our family. We'll put you to work right away. And, hey, let that.
He's just
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that.
Hey, and I'm sorry, but it is great to recognize our employees. At the previous company that I worked for, I was very involved in, it was an employee management relationship where the employee and the management all came together and came up with proposals. The company had had it for 20 some odd years prior, and it never really worked until our group started recognizing people. And you'd be surprised how people will all of a sudden come out of the woodwork and start developing when they're recognized. Whether the idea comes to fruit or not, but just that recognition gives them the incentive that, hey, I'm not just spending my wheels for nothing. And this way, it gives them a great chance to blossom up and be more productive and enhance the city also. So great job. We appreciate it. And there's a young man back there that I want to recognize. And you please stand up, sir. The one of the what's got uniform, right? Let's give him a hand. And he's here today to see how city government works. So I hope we haven't failed. Thank you all very much for coming. It was a good meeting, and we'll see you at our next meeting. Thank you. And
Oh, I'll make your motion to adjourn.
okay, not debatable.
Have a good evening, council. Take care. County.